everybody. You did one hell of a job. And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys? Yeah!
What is up, everyone? Welcome to another NFL Deep Dive where we are revealing my preseason power rankings, talking a little Vegas over-unders and the likes, and then wrapping up each video, really taking a look at the depth chart, talking about strengths, weaknesses, holes, position battles, all the good, juicy stuff for these teams, diving deep. So welcome Cowboys fans, welcome Cowboys haters. I don't know if there's anyone in between. If there are, I have yet to meet him or her. So the Cowboys coming in here at number 7, ironically on the same day of the Zeke Elliott suspension pretty much being announced. Nothing official yet, looking like 6 games. But rest assured, this rating really is not indicative of that suspension. This is where I was going to have this team already. It's a team that I've been fluctuating on a little bit this year. It's a team primed for a little bit of regression, I think. Obviously, you got a team breaking out almost out of nowhere. That's always a little cause for concern. But the main thing for me is just how healthy this offense was. And, not a ton of movement in the power rankings. I still have them at 7, but it is hard for a team to stay that healthy 2 straight years. This team really didn't have anyone on the offensive side of the ball go down for more than a game or 2. But we know this is going to be a top 10 offense easily when Zeke Elliott is in there. Probably a top 5 offense without much discussion. Without him, how good are they? You still have the commander of the offense with Dak Prescott, but Zeke more of the heartbeat of the offense. I think they're still a borderline top 10 offense, though, until Zeke comes back. Defensively, they have some big losses. Barry Church, a group of D linemen, they got a bunch of guys suspended and banged up right now, which, you don't like to see that. It's another reason I'm a little lower on this team, projecting a little bit of a drop-off, just kind of things trending down a little bit for the Cowboys right now after everything last year was really going their way. But despite all that, I actually think this defense is going to be slightly improved, if not maybe just the same. I don't think the defense could be much worse than it was last year. They didn't have a pass rush at all. So they draft Taco Charlton. They draft a couple corners that I really like in Chidobe and Jordan Lewis. And then does Jalen Smith come back? And that's really a big question mark. That's going to be a huge thing to watch this year. I think for the Cowboys, could be a true game changer there. But the thing is, what is the upside of this defense? Like the 24th best defense? I like the coaching staff here. I think they get the most out of these guys, but definitely cause for concern with this defense. But that's pretty much rhetoric. No one is projecting this Cowboys defense to be very good. So Vegas has this team's over-under at 9.5, which is perhaps a little lower than most people would guess before they actually look at it. And I'm actually kind of staying away here. I think 9.5 is a good mark for them. I think there's a really good chance they get to 10 wins. Obviously, a good chance to win this division, blah, blah, blah. But I also think this team has some serious downside as well. And I don't want Cowboys fans to focus on this because I'm not saying this is going to happen. But how many times have we seen this Cowboys team almost radically fluctuate after having a big year like this? I think there's not a ton of depth here. They lose some offensive lineman starters. There's no guarantee that this team is going to be as good. You get the Zeke suspension, some negative energy around the team with stuff like that. I would not be terribly surprised if we saw a pretty big drop-off and we saw this Cowboys team only win 5 or 6 games. That's not even counting my skepticism around Dak, that I'll talk about him in a minute. So I'm staying away from the 9.5, and I'm going to have a full prediction video when I finish these deep dives. So we'll see where I finally come out on with the Cowboys once I get a good look at their schedule. And the Zeke suspension is going to change that up just a little bit. But 12-1 to win the Super Bowl, that's too high for me. As good as this offense is, we saw what happened when this team goes up against an Aaron Rodgers. Dak Prescott at this point in his career is not good enough to win a Super Bowl without help from a defense. Yeah, he had a great second half in that game, but we saw in the first half, teams were taking away his reads and things weren't going his way. I'm going to need to see a lot more from Dak Prescott before I'm comfortable with the Cowboys at 12-1 to win the Super Bowl. And then plus 150 to win the division. I really don't like that. It's a really tough division. I would want much more payout than that. And this is kind of my big call this year. The Eagles are going to win this division. And if you want to know why I like the Eagles, you can head over to that deep dive. I had them at number 12 in the power rankings. but I am rapidly rising on them. So let's run through this depth chart now. It's a really interesting roster. This team loves taking risks and bringing in exciting players. So at quarterback, you got Dak Prescott. I've talked slightly about him, and I've talked a ton about him in the past. For me right now, he is almost a mirror image of Andy Dalton. He is around that middle tier of quarterbacks. I think I have Dalton as 15, Dak as 17th. Really solid. The more you watch him, the more he elevates himself from the quota of it's just the system. He's clearly got more to him than the system, but there is definitely truth to this offensive line, and having Dez Bryant, Zeke Elliott, the surrounding core clearly helping him. Now, the thing is, while everyone says, oh, I'd love to see what he looks like under pressure, myself included, I would love to evaluate him getting consistently hit by a pass rush, which I think the only time we really saw that was in that Eagles game where he actually kind of struggled a little bit until the fourth quarter. But this offensive line isn't going anywhere. So Dak is what he is. He's a really solid quarterback, but I have some serious questions on his upside. He showed flashes of being able to maneuver in the pocket, but didn't do it consistently. Very similar to Andy Dalton in that respect. And then the arm strength. He doesn't have a natural arm. He's relatively accurate. But where is the upside of Dak Prescott's future? And this year is going to be very telling for that. So he is lower in my Madden rating. That's probably the number one player that people are either going to like my roster or not like my roster. He's like an 85 in the vanilla roster, and he comes down to a 79 for me. So that's something I would like you guys to comment below. What would you give Dak in terms of a Madden rating? He is really the number one guy I struggle with because he is so exciting, both statistically and on film. But I think you would be pretty dumb to not consider how much help he's getting out here. And I'm trying to find that healthy balance here. I try to take the most objective look at this stuff. So if you guys have any good, strong opinions on Dak Prescott, definitely let me know. Whether that's a game you think I need to rewatch, a certain play, anything like that. So that's enough time on Dak. The rest of the quarterbacks here, nothing really special, just some veterans. They would not be in good shape, I don't think, if anything happened to Dak. He's clearly better than Kellen Moore and Luke McCown. So at running back, Zeke suspended. I have Zeke as tied for the 5th best running back in football. Really nice player, will continue to grow. I think my favorite part of his game is how he will almost always fall forward, and he's just so well-rounded. And then Darren McFadden, Alfred Morris. I think Darren McFadden is going to be the starter here. And let's talk a little fantasy. Running back's usually the focus of fantasy football here. So Darren McFadden, if it is a 6-game suspension, I'd probably take him like 7th round. This is very live reaction here. I mean, you're going to get 6 games of a top 10 running back in Darren McFadden, but you're not going to get him for the playoffs. So if you're confident in your ability to get to the playoffs, let someone else take Darren McFadden. If you think you need that extra boost to get some regular season wins, if you're in a very competitive league maybe, then I would take Darren McFadden. If it's a family friends league and you're usually in the playoffs, I'd probably stay away from Darren McFadden a little more. And then I would also take Zeke a little higher, because he's probably going to fall to the 2nd round now. Like we saw, Le'Veon Bell fell to the end of the 1st with a 3-game suspension, but you can get a true league winner there in Zeke Elliott in the 2nd round. And then Alfred Morris, I feel bad for him because I feel like he would do really well here, but Darren McFadden is ahead of him. From an outside view, I like Alfred Morris more, but Darren McFadden maybe fits their scheme a little more and is going to get the opportunity. Ronnie Hillman there as well. And then on to receiver, Dez Bryant. Love Dez Bryant. A lot of people think he's overrated, especially the Madden community, who I think like to focus on stats a little bit too much. This is not a high-volume passing offense, but when Dez gets his chances, this dude is almost as good as any receiver out there. I love Dez Bryant. So physical. And then Terrence Williams, a career number 2 receiver. I know Cowboys fans like to see him get more opportunity, kind of plays into that. And not a high-volume passing offense. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think he was a free agent, just got re-signed. I was interested to see if he would grow, take a Marvin Jones-sized leap in a more pass-oriented offense, but he's back in Dallas. And hey, maybe with the Zeke suspension, this offense does open up the passing game a little more, and we see a little more from those guys. But statistically, are never really going to be dominant. Cole Beasley, one of the best slot receivers in the game. Bryce Butler was one of those 2016 preseason guys I had on my watch list right there with Tyreek Hill, Tyrell Williams, and Cameron Meredith. Could he emerge with those three guys who all had great years last year? And then Andy Jones, Ryan Switzer. Does he eventually flush out Cole Beasley? I didn't totally understand that pick in the 4th round. I just don't know how much Ryan Switzer is going to get on the field as long as Cole Beasley's here. And then Noah Brown, a developmental 7th round pick, a guy that compares similarly to Dez Bryant physically. So a really good deep group of receivers here. I honestly would say it's the deepest part of this offense. You got Jason Witten there, criminally overrated for his Madden rating. I saw this on Reddit that the guy that does the Madden rosters is actually a Cowboys fan. And Jason Witten at a 91. Look, he's a okay blocker. He's a decent tight end blocker. And he's a decent receiver. But he's a one-trick pony. He's a 3rd down chain mover. And not a guy that's going to stretch the field vertically. And for those Madden players out there, Jason Witten plays like Rob Gronkowski in this game. He shrugs dudes off. He'll go vertical. His speed's too high. So he comes down quite a bit in my roster. I'm still going to play authentic to him. He's still going to run block. He's still going to move the chains on sticks. But, you're not going to be able to run up the seam with Jason Witten like you can in the normal game. And then Jeff Swaim and Rico Gathers, a huge talking point for the Cowboys faithful. 6th round pick, I'm pretty sure a former basketball player, really intriguing athlete. And does he actually challenge Jason Witten for playing time this year? We'll see. I mean, he's definitely got a better physical profile. Maybe comes in on like 3rd and longs a few times this year. A guy to definitely keep your eye on there. And then this offensive line, not a ton to talk about here outside of those 2 new starters. So La'el Collins will be playing right tackle now. Just got a nice new contract. Might have been a little eager. I mean, we haven't seen him at right tackle yet. And so that's going to be a pivot point for this offense. I know Doug Free wasn't very good last year anyway. Definitely was the weak link of this offense. But La'el Collins is still going to have to hold down the fort there. We have not seen him play much tackle. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then Jonathan Cooper, a guy who has massive struggles over his career and some serious questions about him. Chaz Green just getting healthy as well. I actually think Chaz Green, a 3rd round pick from a few years ago, is the one that's going to start here. I'm not a Jonathan Cooper believer. But hey, this is by far the best surrounding core he's ever played with. It'd be the best surrounding core anyone would ever play with if they got put in left guard there, right next to Travis Frederick and Tyron Smith. I mean, can you imagine? And then Zach Martin stud at right guard. I do worry about the depth here, though. So in the intro, I said if this team got hurt, what happens? If either Tyron Smith, Frederick, or Zach Martin got hurt, who's going to play there? I don't love the depth here. They do sign Byron Bell from Tennessee, but those guys are the heart of this offense. And they were relatively perfect in terms of health last year. I know Tyron Smith missed a game at the end, but I don't think there was any other games that those guys missed. But regardless, going to be a great offense. Not my concern at all for this team. It is this defense. So let's start on the D-line. You got some suspensions and new guys rotating in here. It was kind of a cluster last season. It's going to be more of the same this year. A ton of rotation. So DeMarcus Lawrence, Tyrone Crawford, the DNs here, as Randy Gregory and David Irving are both suspended. David Irving will come back, however, so he'll probably get in this rotation for DN. Probably going to push Crawford and Lawrence. I don't know who the best of those 3 would be, in my opinion. I really like David Irving, a freak athlete. Between him and DeMarcus Lawrence, that's going to be the best athletic combo, but Crawford's got some game to him as well. They draft Taco Charlton in the 1st round as well, so you got 4 guys that are going to rotate and do their best to get after the quarterback. How effective that's going to be, I have my questions. It was not a good pass rush last year. Maybe Taco Charlton really emerges as a number 1, but I didn't love Charlton per se. I think he's a solid player, a career number 2 complimentary pass rusher, though, I think. Not a whole lot behind those 4 that I'm intrigued in. You got Malik Collins, rookie last year, was really good. Definitely the reason they were comfortable to let some of those other guys leave here. And then Cedric Thornton starting next to him as well. So okay in terms of the D tackles. You know, David Irving will get inside as well just because of that size. They add Stephen Paella, Joey Ivy in the 7th round. And so again, you know, you got like 9 guys here that I would expect to make the roster, and really all of them to rotate. And then this linebacking group is weak unless you get Jalen Smith healthy. So you got Damian Wilson, who I think is actually suspended potentially this year. Anthony Hitchens, and Sean Lee's a stud. I love Sean Lee, but getting up there in age though, how much longer does he keep up with it? You got Justin Durant there as well, but he's hurt. Kyle Wilbur, John Lutulele. But yeah, Jalen Smith, man, if he is healthy and flying around, he is a game changer for this whole defense, for this whole team. But a nasty injury to come back from. I know he's practicing right now, but it's really just impossible for me to say what he's going to do. So I can't really project him to be a part of this defense this year. But if he is, it's going to give this defense a huge boost. It's going to save maybe a whole, touchdown to convert it to a field goal game. So maybe it saves this defense 4 points in every matchup if Jalen Smith becomes a star. And then the corners was a big weakness last year. They pretty much let all those guys go. By the way, Madden, again, criminally overrating those corners. I think they had 3 corners rated over an 80, which makes that 3 corners on my roster as top 20 corners. So that's bad. That's not going to happen on my roster. Orlando Scandrick, the best here, but best in the nickel. You don't want him really playing outside. And then they signed Nolan Carroll from Philly. He's a veteran who's going to hold down the fort here as these young guys continue to learn. I really like these young corners, but they are inexperienced. I mean, Anthony Brown showed flashes last year, total freak athlete, kind of a breakout candidate for me is Anthony Brown. Jordan Lewis could turn out to be the steal of this draft in the 3rd round. Had some criminal questions, but they got cleared, it looks like. So Jordan Lewis looks to be a stud. I really like Jordan Lewis. He's a big reason I'm actually a little higher on this defense, I think, than some people. And Chidobe Awuzie, who I was really high on in the draft as well. Coming down on him just a notch, but I think he will develop nicely too. I also take Marquez White in the 6th round. So a ton of youth here. I mean, really, what is that, 5 guys that are all rookies or 2nd-year players. So it could be a learning curve for this defense. They don't have a pass rush to complement them. I think teams are really going to throw all over this team. The safeties are okay. I mean, Byron Jones, very solid safety, a really fun Madden player, freak athlete, but has never really taken that next step as either a ball hawker or a elite run defender. Just kind of a guy that's back there. He shows flashes at times, but not terribly consistent. Jeff Heath played really well last year. Will now be the starting strong safety. They signed Robert Blanton. He'll probably get in about 15% of the plays. And Xavier Woods, a developmental 5th round pick. So they throw a ton of young resources at this secondary. So that wraps up the depth chart here. Cowboys fans, I know you're not going to like my outlook of the team, but do let me know if there's any players here that I need to really focus more on for my Madden roster or just for my projections of this team. Again, I will have a full speed round prediction, so we'll see how I end up coming down on this Cowboys team. Consider giving this video a like if you enjoyed the video, and that's all I got. Cheers and peace out, everyone.